We can get going. So, I'd like to call to order the May 14th, 2024 Old Colony Planning Council Personnel Committee meeting. At this point, I'd like to, if Megan could bring up, thank you, the accessibility statement. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones and telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon advance request. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833. A notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to Federal Title VI, non-discrimination protections and state non-discrimination protections is posted in this meeting room and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you. And I think, Mary, could we take a roll call?
Will. Chair Stephen Santusonio,
Present?
Lee Hartman,
Present.
and Frank Staffier.
Present.
And for the record, for staff, we have Megan Fournier, Charlie Kilmer, and Sean Noel.
Thank you. And item number 4 is the January 24th Personnel Committee meeting minutes. We need to take action and a vote on that, I believe.
We do need a vote, yes.
Okay.
I will so move, Mr. Chairman, for the motion.
Thank you, Frank.
I'll second it if we need a second for such a small group.
Thank you, Lee.
And for roll call, Mr. Chair, Stephen Santusonio,
Accept.
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
and Frank Staffier.
Accept.
Thank you. The next item is actually item number 5, review of the personnel handbook for amendments.
Right, it is for number 5. Thank you. So as we're following the same process that we have done in the past year, is that we ask employees to place some of the topics and concerns and things that have come along the way into a parking lot. That parking lot, and then internally we have discussion. Just yesterday, we had a discussion with Lisa O'Donnell, the consultant that we have for HR, to run through some of these. So that process seems to be working really well, gives the employees the opportunity to say, hey, what about this? But in addition to that, Sean Noel, myself, and then it was Lisa O'Donnell herself had attended. Murphy Hesse Toomey Lane has yearly HR session. It's free. It's pretty much all morning, and lots of great information and updates about Mass state law as well as federal state law. So anyway, so these are the new items that have been placed into the parking lot, if you will. And the first one was regarding retirement. So in our current handbook, we have, if an employee retires while working at OCPC and wishes to return, they will be hired back as a contractual employee. This position would not be eligible for benefits. We kind of looked around as to where that came from and why that came from, but I think it was just a matter of I think we figured it out that we were under 25 employees. And when we kick up to 25, over 25, there's certain rules and responsibilities that we abide by. Hence, we are well over 25. And but this made us take a look at, we had a couple, particularly in this case recently, it was Ray Garino who had was hired back and, wanted to know like how that all works. So we, in this case, we're suggesting, and Lisa O'Donnell had confirmed the language is good, is that if an employee, we are suggesting as staff, if an employee should retire while working for OCPC and wishes to return, and the employer confirms, agrees, they will be hired back as a part-time employee. This position will be eligible for benefits consistent with the personnel policies.
Now, is that because when they come back, they wanted to come back, they're already getting benefits as a retired employee? Is that where
that is so when one retires, the clock basically stops, if you will, for pretty much everything. And then so therefore their benefits in terms of vacation and personnel and sick time doesn't get tacked on to whatever they left when they retired. It starts back 0. And we will be dealing with that, and I think a little bit further on. But basically, if they come back as a contractual, they receive no benefits at all. And we have several part-time employees. So we want to treat all employees the same in terms of they come back as an employee of OCPC. They have limitations under the retirement. When they retire, they can only work X amount of hours or a particular amount of dollars per year. So they have limitations.
At this point, do we need to take a vote on this or?
We do, because it will be a
Okay.
change to
Okay.
the handbook.
Mr. Chairman, I will so move that we vote on these amendments as we've heard them from the director.
I agree. Thanks, Frank.
Right.
Lee Hartman, second.
Thank you, Lee. And Mr. Chair, I'll take the roll. Stephen Centosonia,
Accept?
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
and Frank Staffier.
Accept.
Thank you. So we're going to be taking them individually because I think they require just some further discussion. So we don't have that many, but the second one is clarifying the paid family medical leave new regulation to allow employees to top off with earned time. So at this conference that I mentioned, there is a slide, and Megan, we provided the whole slide to them. Am I right? But
Yes, and it's in the personnel folder in the Google Drive as well. So
let me complete this, and if need be, we can go back to the slide in a minute. But can an employer deny the use of accrued and sick vacation time? So we've had, and it's effective as at a date of November. So, we've had a few of our employees when they wanted to take off. So when you go on paid medical family leave, you do not get all the percentage of the benefits. It's at a particular certain rate. So if they want to get the full use of time, then they can use in terms of vacation time or sick time. And paid time off, basically programs, are being found. So we are recommending that this is something. So there was a question that I came up with that we should have an idea about what this costs the organization. And Sean, were we able to figure that one out? Do you remember? Sean, I don't know, you're muted, Sean.
Sorry, I thought I clicked off. In terms of the cost of applying sick time, this is basically just going to be, they'd be using the equivalent of 20% of their salary, I believe. Whatever it is used to make up the difference. So they can't, and we would need to confirm the amount with PFML because it's not necessarily their gross salary. There's a maximum amount that they can top off up to, and that would be all that they could use. Unfortunately, there's no set cost that we could calculate that would allow us to figure this, how much this would cost.
Thanks, Sean. And Megan, if you do have those slides up, I think it'd just be worthwhile since we are recording this in case there was any further question. So these were the type of, I think 179. I think we were going to 179 first because it was a question about whether we can even deny anybody. And we had, I know for one employee, we had reached out about this. So the question is, for bonding, if the employee is out for bonding leave, the employer, just not permit the use of paid time off while on paid medical leave. So if we can just scroll down to the next page, then Megan, thank you. So, again, we spent quite a bit of time at that session in terms of dealing with this, when they're talking about sick time is likely to be denied for topping off for bonding leave. But if, say, the significant other is having some medical relating, then I think that's where we need to define and have that be determined in having conversation with the employee as well as the doctor's note. So I think this is where does not discriminate against employee for exercising the right to which an employee is entitled to. Again, we're not looking to, with this new law, we just want to be able to tighten up our handbook. And I believe that, Megan, I think the next slide.
Because human wage for the
Um, And again, these are things that were without violating any kind of law. So there are opportunities for us to deny, but I think this is again where we have, I think, a really good relationship with our employees and understanding the needs on a, you know, on a needs basis for a time when it's really important to have you know, our employee, whether they are the person who are having the child and or if they're taking time for bonding to be with their child. So we are recommending, if we go back to what we're recommending in the slide, Megan. Thank you. So I think it was just clarifying. We really don't have this here. I think what we're just recommending at this point is that we continue to be in compliance with the state and federal laws of, as it relates to paid family medical leave. I think that's what we're just planning on doing anyway. That's what it says in our personnel bylaw. Is that correct, Megan?
Yeah, and I think if anything, we could just add in language with the continuing with the paid family leave and just saying referring to, you know, this. I think we've already added in the top off language, but I think if not, we need to add that in and then just saying like we're using the sick time and vacation time language referred to earlier in our handbook.
So for our council members for today for the personnel committee, I don't think that, I think since we're following paid medical family leave, we're not violating, we just wanted to highlight this to you. Right, Megan, we don't need them to take a vote on this because we're just going to continue to follow paid medical family leave. Great. Any questions on that? Okay, number 3. Believe it or not, this has come up again, the observance of holidays that land on a Saturday. So we're continually to follow the rules as it relates to following state law, the Mass state laws. And so that says if a holiday lands on a Saturday, that we are open on the Friday. There is no, how do we call it? If we have, we just manage it internally. And I'm I've only had 1 cup of coffee. Megan, was there anything else on this one that we're looking to have the council members?
No, I think I think just more of clarifying. I think we were just basically our handbook is correct. It in what it says and which is saying that if a holiday lands on a Saturday, it technically is observed on that Saturday, but in reality, overall, what we're trying to get at is that we would have the Friday off.
And
We
that's
close the
pretty-
whole office down.
And that's pretty standard in municipal world.
Yes.
I think the same would go if it falls on a Sunday.
So it's
That
clear,
goes for
it's
Monday.
clear in,
Okay.
it's clear in the state law that if the holiday lands on a Sunday, it has the Monday off. In the Mass General laws, it says, is this it right here? That
This is what the red book that any government employees follow. And so it says holiday shall be observed on that day, but then it gets into the overarching preceding Friday. Basically, it's saying you get a day off at some point in time, but for our sake, rather than having, we talked about not having like all of the individual, like trying to figure out everyone's day off. It's just closing the office on Friday. So then we
But
don't have to worry about all of that.
Do you need a motion for that?
we are, because Megan, what you're showing is not
Would-
from our handbook or from our.
No,
employee-
our handbook, it
Yeah.
basically says the same thing. 1 second, I can pull that one up.
Could you
Where,
please? Thank
where
you.
was
Yeah.
the confusion? Like where was the confusion on it? It was, I thought when we talked about this before, it was pretty clear how we agreed
was-
upon.
Yeah, Stephen. So I think what happens is that the Mass state law, as it relates to holidays, had some changes to it, and we just
Okay.
continue to refer. And thank you, Megan. So right now, this is according to the Mass state law for state employees, is that, so the Sunday is taken care of, but if it falls on a Saturday, will be open on the Friday immediately preceding. That's what it says right now. To Lee's point,
And we want to change that to Friday.
Yeah,
that is a policy that this committee needs to,
Yeah, I make that motion. I think that's.
Okay.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Can we get a vote, Mary?
so on the motion, Stephen Santisonio,
Accept?
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
and Frank Staffier.
Accept.
Thank you. The next is one that we do need to make, this needs a vote as it relates to AI in organizations. It was in, again, this came from the workshop, and this, thank you, when employees, so we're gonna just, as the words that are suggested here, all employees are expected to adhere to the following security best practices. Straight out of, from the Murphy Hefty Toomey Lahane, I would recommend that this language be accepted as part of our new handbook for employees. I don't know if you really want me to go through it all.
Beyond me, I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
I trust Murphy.
Uh, I'll second that.
Thank you both. Mary, can we get a vote?
Stephen Santisonio,
Accept?
Lee Hartman,
Accept.
and Frank Staffier.
Accept.
Thank you. And Megan, was there anything else? Okay, yep, a couple more items here. So part-time staff schedule and allocation during the week that includes a holiday. So again, this became a little bit tricky. It's never mind the Saturday holiday. This is now, we have regular scheduled employees. So for the most part, this is, I think, going to be taken care of by management. Again, it added some question, and it is a policy. So adding language clarifying whether a part-time employee gets a paid holiday time if they do not normally work on that day as a holiday, on the holiday. Lots of holidays are on Mondays for the most part. There are middle of the week, and sometimes even on a Friday. So most part-time staff have not had standard days to work. It's kind of like, you know, moving it all over the place. It's recommended they can change their day to work or not be paid for the holiday. So we're not really clear what we're asking you here. Megan?
I think we are asking, we're trying to determine whether or not we choose to let them take a holiday, but they aren't getting paid for it. So, you know, let's say that they work 14 hours and they decide not to work on that Monday, which is, or is it, do we just have it where it's like they can choose to change their day? Or do we want to provide them with that comp
And I
payment
think we
time?
talked about this, and I don't think we have it for the members, but we talked about what's the cost for this, right? I think
I
Sean,
know it's minimal. Sean, I think,
Sean-
knows it.
The cost for our current list of part-time employees, for instance, if we were to give them a prorated holiday, since they're working part-time, I used a half day as example. The cost for that would be $435 for each holiday.
for
And
each one.
our typical cost
Total or per? That's
Excuse me?
That's total?
that's per holiday, yes, total.
For part-time.
Per
Just
hol-
for
that's
for
per-
part-time employees, Lee,
And we have what, 11 holidays? So
correct. And each holiday from a full-time standpoint costs us a little over $7,200. So in other words, to pay our full-time employees for a holiday that day is about $7,200 to the organization. And those are budgeted for the 12 holidays we have. If we were to add the 4 part-time employees, it would bump the number by about $450 per holiday,
per holiday.
about $5,000, a little bit over $5,000, I would say.
about that.
So if a part-time employee only works Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but the holiday's on a Monday, are they also getting paid for that Monday, even though they're working Tuesday and Wednesday? Or is that?
No, my recommendation would be no. For instance, when we work,
Before you go further, Sean, does it happen right now?
no.
Okay.
No part-time employees are being paid for holidays. At this point.
So,
Even if it falls, but so it doesn't fall, no holidays fall on their days they work, is that why they're not getting paid, or?
No, it's usually a situation where they can structure their schedule because they're part-time and because they're flexible. They can structure their schedule around the holiday and not have to work on it.
To ensure they get paid like they normally would have gotten paid,
Right,
like any other week. Okay.
yeah, it's not like they're losing out. Well, take Jane Seelig, for example. She works 13 hours a week, usually 3 days. if there's a holiday that falls in the week, she can structure her 13 hours around that day in the other 4 remaining days of the week.
Like Thanksgiving or something like that.
Right.
Right.
Charlie?
So for example, Ray Garino works part-time, 20 hours a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But holiday falls on a Monday, he doesn't get the holiday. It's just he works at 20 hours. But the example coming up is Juneteenth, that falls on a Wednesday. So presumably where that falls on a normal workday, he'll be reimbursed for a holiday, but only work 2 days. I think the question too is the question of set schedules and I think having that flexibility, because sometimes a part-timer if they normally work 2 days and if they shift, then do they get the holiday? I
So-
think it should be clear.
It should be clear and it needs to be consistent. And I think this is what we maybe had struggled and we may not have done a good job here in being clear about this for all of you. So I guess what I would say is as a recommendation, but just following up a little bit, what Charlie was saying is that in the case that people do have a set schedule, and I think it's minimal, that if that person has that holiday, that they get paid for it. If it's somebody who does not have a set schedule, has flexibility, then that they do not get paid for it. That may not sound equitable, but it's either all or it's none. And it does have a cost to it, without having to, well, it may be de minimis in the terms of 5,000. But I think that this is where we internally went round and round about this and just maybe looking for those of you who are in the field to maybe for your guidance.
So in Ray's case, he would get paid because he's
set schedule.
Tuesday, but obviously he wouldn't get paid for the Monday because he only works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That's correct.
Right.
Right. So if I could ask maybe at this point, if we leave it as is for those that have a set schedule, and we will, again, what's a set schedule? It opens up a little bit of the Pandora's box about this, is that that if we leave it at now for having that employees with a set schedule would get paid for the holiday. If they do not have a set schedule, that they will not get paid. Let's get through a round of this with our employees and see where that goes. And then if we need to come back to you for changes as it's set forward. And I'll ask Sean and Brenda to keep a track of, like, in terms of cost associated with that. I do not see us adding a whole lot. Again, I'm looking at our part-time employee. Bill Napolitano is flexible. Who else do we have as part-time? Jane is flexible. Sean, who else is part-time?
Alyssa,
Oh, Alyssa, she's 7 hours a week. She's flexible.
yeah.
And just, Sean,
Um,
you're muted, Sean, so I can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry, but I was saying, yeah, Alyssa and Alyssa, Jane, Ray, and Bill are the only 4 parts.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
The only thing I would add, maybe keep in mind, is there a way to recognize those people by giving them comp time? Because it's not a big deal, so it's not a financial. And that there's a provision that when there's a holiday during a work week and you're part-time, you're entitled to of the equivalent. They're not entitled to time and a half because they're not working a full work
Right.
week, so they're not required, but maybe there's a way to say within 30 days, you have this comp time. And again, I'm not even saying that's a good idea, but maybe that's another way to cut it for those people, to just say, look, you are entitled to, you normally work 4 days or whatever, you prorate it. You have 20 hours, we're gonna prorate it for one holiday, however you prorate that, and that's comp time, but you must use that within the next 30 days.
but that does give us, Lee, some options management, which may come down to the next item. So, it's something to chew on and to kind of think about, and how else we can, as you said, to recognize the part-time employees and their work as it relates to a holiday. So at this point, I think the only thing that we would do is add some language within the handbook that says if you are a regularly scheduled and employee per the schedule approval of the manager, that you get paid for these, and I don't know if we want to call that out in the handbook, saying if you're not a regular scheduled,
And maybe,
it's not
maybe just
entitled.
say only regularly scheduled, so just say only regularly scheduled employees are entitled to.
Yep, and let's leave it at that and then revisit it. We'll keep it on our parking lot to have some conversations with the employees as well.
Do we
So
need to- do we
I would
take
need a
action
motion.
on this? Okay, yes, can I get a motion to accept?
Accept, Mr. Chairman.
you,
I'll
Frank.
second it, Lee Hartman,
Thank you, Lee.
Stephen Santisonio,
Accept.
Lee Hartman,
accept.
and Frank Staffier.
Accept.
And this last items, I think, are just ones I want to bring to your attention, but it's on a list that we have manager meetings every month. Just in terms of, we were very clear with Lisa O'Donnell, the HR consultant. Since we're all salaried, there is no comp time, but we live in a hybrid work world, and that family work balance is really important. It is one of the benefits I think that people see about working at OCPC. So, but putting some parameters about this flex time, having the discussion with staff, if someone puts in 15 minutes over, are they going to look for the 15 minutes off? My hope is that they're not. But we really want the consistency of all departments. So I'm not that I'm calling them out, but if one department does this and another department does this, we just want to make sure that the managers are all allowing for the same kind of, if someone's put in 5 hours extra the week, yep, we really want to make sure that there has that flexibility. When can a staff request staying overnight at a hotel, and what is reimbursable? So, there's a couple of employees who are going to a workshop in Worcester. 2 of them are going back and forth for those 2 days, and one wanted to stay over. We didn't really have any parameters on that, but rather than put it into the handbook, because then what do you say if someone chooses, if they live in, I'll call it Nashua, New Hampshire, and the conference is down the Cape, do they get to stay over versus someone who lives in, the Brockton area? Without having to put it in the handbook, we just want to make sure that managers, and we'll have a conversation with the managers about what is consistent, so everybody's consistent about that. The meals and all of that, the travel, that's all reimbursable. And that is consistent, so we don't really need to address much of that. And then requiring a minimum number of days in the office with a hybrid work model. It's unsaid, we've been pretty flexible, but we also are finding now that it's important to have people in the office. I would not say 5 days a week. We pretty much informally ask for 2 days a week. That's been the consistent model that we've had during COVID. Obviously, when folks come in and they need to come in on another day, they do. But we don't have anything in our handbook. We're recommending at this point, we're going to try doing it through a management level before we put something in the handbook. So just wanted to bring those to your attention, and on any of those 3. I don't know if you have any questions
Okay,
for.
well, I'll just put my 2 cents up and go down the list. So the flex time thing can get very dangerous because, like you say, you can have people. I mean, I have people and it drives me crazy. Well, I didn't take a break and I worked through my lunch and I want to leave early, and you're almost really better trying to deal with that informally. Once you try to codify it, I see all kinds of pitfalls with codifying that. Second is the overnight. And then, yeah, I think for us, what we do is if we're at a conference, then your meals and your
Travel back and forth.
travel, that's all covered.
Yes.
As is mileage. So, oftentimes I don't put in for certain meals. I don't want them to see my alcohol list. And then I think they'll allot like a 10%. You have to make clear what you're covering for a tip or not a tip. And I think they'll cover 10% of your tip. So if you give it 20%, then they're only going to reimburse you for the 10%. And it's got to be clear there's no alcohol. But yeah, I think that's pretty common that if you're doing something work related, they'll cover those other meals. And then the last one, I think even if you do something with A, but A and C, should make it really clear. It's the sole discretion of management to make those decisions. And I think if you have a flex that, I would say that you need an individual work plan for each person that has to be approved by the supervisor and the director. And it's the sole authority of the manager and the director to approve that hybrid model. And you want to be consistent, but that's a good way of saying it without saying that everybody gets a minimum of 2 days. Because I'll tell you, in my office, I say it's person by person here, and there are 2 people here I would not allow to work from home in a hybrid. So I wouldn't want to have that codified because I know what they're going to do. They're going to sit and watch TV. So,
Yeah.
but there are others I have no hesitation doing. So again, I
Right.
think it's sole discretion and case by case with a work plan.
I like that language, Lee, just in terms of case by case basis. It's but thank you. Those are
What do you do now, Mary? Is it still like, is it, if you require 2 days in the office, is it a specific 2 days, or is like, some people like, I don't know Mondays and Fridays and only want to do
right.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays or whatever?
It has been pretty much the same. So transportation department's pretty much Tuesday, Thursday, comprehensive planning's Wednesday, Thursday, but yet sometimes, 1 or 2, because of depending upon their meetings, will come in another day. The area agency on aging is Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays, or Wednesday, Fridays, I forget, but
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they're in.
thank you, Sean. And some of that is, most of them are on the road anyway, for the most part. Meaning like Lila and Jane and Richard. So, I again, I think it goes back to what Lee was emphasizing. It's sole discretion of the management of the flex time and the hybrid work environment.
Yeah.
And to your point, sorry, if the last thing is that for the most part, I see a work plan. I see everybody in the transportation department's work plan. I see Megan's work plan. I see Elise's. I see Sean's. I don't see everybody from comprehensive planning, but I do see economic development as well. So it's that work plan is pretty important to see. Just again, it's more of a it's not because we're too crowded and everybody has a desk. It's just allowing for that flexibility. And to be honest with you, and I think Charlie and others can, particularly Charlie, I think because he oversees a lot of the other staff as well, is that we've seen productivity increase as well. Because they're not traveling, an hour to get in. So
So the minimum number of days is really determined by the specific manager for that department, like AAA, you say, is in 3 days, whereas the transportation department might be in 2 days. That's how it,
it is.
Okay.
Now, the only other thing I was thinking too is, which I kind of wish I had here, is that you require that they check in at the beginning and the end of each day with their supervisor. That might be worthwhile, and that could be by email, that could be text, however you want to word it, so that maybe there is a requirement that they check in at the beginning and the end, so they're actually up when they're supposed to be up. And then the second thing is maybe some kind of language that says failure to respond in a timely manner to emails and phone calls may result in removal of that privilege of hybrid. Just something that maybe you can't quite monitor it, but it's in there, and it maybe hopefully keeps the 1 or 2 people you have to be worried about a little more honest. Nothing drives me crazier than I have somebody working remotely and I call them and they don't pick up the phone. I go insane.
Well, and to be honest with you, it's one of the reasons why everybody has an OCPC phone as well, right?
That
It's
still doesn't work for me sometimes.
I know. Well, I know. But
But
this
again,
is
I think
helpful.
maybe if you put that kind of language in, that might help.
But this is helpful. It really is, because I think we are growing, and there are new needs that arise, and particularly since new folks, when new folks come on in, I have them staying pretty much like the first couple of weeks being in 5 days a week, just because they get to see some of the other departments sit in on meetings. It's a good way of acclimating. I would tell you 99.9% of the time, pretty much spot on. There are a couple of blips and things like that, and I think, but that comes in also when we have our, twice a year evaluations and an opportunity to talk about it then, saying, and or not wait for that evaluation, deal with it much sooner. And I first always go to a manager before calling an employee, because the employee usually checks in and, I'm gonna run late or what have you. I mean, I think there are some good communications. Sometimes it falls off the cliff and just pull them back in, but this is helpful from all of you as members, so.
So at this point, you're not looking for any action on these?
No, but what we will do is we'll keep these items on for the next time, so report back to see how things are going. So thank
Right.
you.
My only 2 cents is like, I don't mind the check in, check out, just to ensure those working from home, that they're at least on to some, but do
Yeah.
you think that might be going too much micromanaging? Or I don't know, I mean, I know
Well-
to Lee's point, I think he might be warranted, in his situation, but I don't know.
When I send somebody home that wants to like draft up minutes and wants to do it in the quiet of their house,
Yeah.
I ask them to send me an email when they start and an email when they end. It's pretty
Right.
simple. I
Right.
have no way of really monitoring, but at least
Yeah.
I have something.
Okay, all right.
I don't, it's up to you. I mean, I just threw that out. I'm not,
No, I don't think that we've gotten to that point, but I think to know the tools and what people are doing as good management
Yeah,
tools are
indeed,
always
right.
available. I believe that is it for the action items on the handbook. And I believe that we're going to be going into FY 25 merit increases, but I do believe we're going to need to go into an executive session for this. And the only one that I will need on is I'm privileged. Just Charlie, if Charlie can stay. Sean, I'm going to ask you to leave as well. Thank you.
Okay.
How about maybe?
And
Okay, folks.
everybody else, I'm sorry, the members, if you could just stay on, that would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
good. Thank you. Okay.